Hey everyone! So as promised, here is my IGTV video of Q&A for eating disorders and mental health disorders. So this is a wee disclaimer because I have never ever done a video like this before, so I don't know how it's going to turn out or what my editing skills are going to be like. Let's go! So I received an awful lot of questions on my Instagram about my eating disorder and mental health condition, and I'm going to try and answer as many of them as possible. Some of them were kind of asked 2 or 3 times, but yeah, hopefully you all get some insight into eating disorders and the reality of living with anorexia. So I've got my notebook here ready to go, and yeah, let's get started. My first question is, at what point did you realise you needed help? When did you realise you had an eating disorder? So basically, I have had my eating disorder for about 3 years, and how I discovered how I started to realise something was wrong was when I was becoming obsessed with calorie counting and exercising and everything, and it was all just too consuming. Like, all my behaviours were just so time consuming, and I wasn't concentrating on anything else other than listening to the thoughts in my head. So I guess my mom had a big part, my auntie had a big part in me realising that I had an eating disorder, because they both took me aside separate times. They unintentionally, they didn't know the other was doing it, but they both took me aside at different occasions and told me that what I was doing wasn't healthy. Did it take long to be referred and seen? So basically I was referred to see a mental health charity called Jigsaw here in Ireland that deal with anxiety and like slighter mental health conditions. They're a free charity that anyone under the age of 18 can be referred to. So I was referred to Jigsaw by my GP because I was having panic attacks all the time, and at my assessment for Jigsaw they kind of touched on eating, and without really thinking I kind of spoke about some of the behaviours I was doing, and they kind of went, okay, this isn't normal and we don't know if we are the people needed to deal with this. So they, after my appointment, like within 2 hours of me being assessed with them, they had rang my GP to say to him that they thought I had an eating disorder and that they needed me referred to the community mental health team. So I was back to my GP the following day, and he wrote the referral there and then and put me down as urgent. So I was seen by my community psychiatric nurse the following week, I think so, because it was deemed as urgent. So I was seen by her the following week and ended up being sent to A&E one day, and that kind of fast-tracked my appointment with my psychiatrist more. So I was seen by her within 2-3 weeks of being referred, as she heard she had been in contact with my care nurse, and my nurse had told her all the symptoms I was having, and the psychiatrist said no, she needs to be sent to the hospital for an assessment. So I was sent to the hospital, and the following day then I was seen by her in clinic for my mental health. Yeah, so it didn't really take that long, but I know I'm really lucky in the sense that I was seen very quickly, as I know some people can be left months waiting. Like, I'm really lucky in that sense. Third question, what were some of the hardest parts of inpatient treatment? So, as most of you know, I spent 4 months in a general hospital on a medical ward while I was getting medically stable, and then I spent almost 3 months in an eating disorder unit in Dublin. So they were very different experiences. As in the medical hospital, they weren't dealing with my mental health at all. They were literally doing what they had to do to keep me alive and medically stable. So there it was more of focusing on my physical health rather than my mental health. So I spent guts of 4 months on an NG tube which literally fed me up enough to bring me to a weight that I could be accepted onto the eating disorder unit, and that I was eating enough solids myself to maintain weight. So the hardest part of inpatient treatment in a medical facility was the lack of mental health support that I received. It was horrible as I was gaining weight at a very slow pace, but in my head it was like, oh my god, I'm gaining weight. But I was gaining weight and they weren't doing anything to help me deal with the weight gain. They were literally doing everything they could to get my bloods proper, to get my heart working properly again, my kidneys working properly, but they weren't actually dealing with the underlying issue of why all of this had happened. So that was definitely the hardest part of inpatient treatment in a medical facility, along with the fact that I was on the marzipan program, which literally means that you are on complete bed rest. No, not allowed to go to the toilet, you have to use a commode, no electronics, no books, on a special one-on-one the whole time. It is torture. But yeah, they were definitely the hardest parts of inpatient treatment in a medical facility. The hardest part of inpatient treatment in an eating disorder unit is having to come face to face with some of your fears, definitely. As I had been tube fed for so long that I had become reliant on not actually having to pick up a fork and eat it myself. Whereas in the eating disorder unit, you had to want to get better and you had to be willing to eat, obviously, like. So I found that very hard at first, the transition from being on an NG tube to eating solids again. Another hard part was that you had to finish every meal. I've been so used to, if I couldn't finish a meal, just stopping, which wasn't okay, really wasn't okay. But when you're in the eating disorder unit, you're expected to be 100% compliant with your meal plan. So you're expected to eat all your breakfast, all your snack, all your lunch, all your snacks, all your dinner. And that was really hard as I hadn't been doing that for so long. But it got easier with time, and thankfully when you're in an eating disorder unit, you have the support of specialised staff who know what it's like, who understand your condition properly, and therefore are able to give you the support you need to get through those milestones and achieve those goals. And yeah, definitely I would 100% recommend being on an eating disorder unit rather than a medical facility, because medical facilities they're not equipped to deal with eating disorders, and whereas on the eating disorder program they know what they're dealing with and they have all the skills and all the tools that you're going to need to overcome this. Question number 4. What was a typical day like in treatment? So as I said, I was in 2 separate facilities. I was in a medical centre and I was in an eating disorder program unit. So they were very, very different. So I will kind of explain what my day was like on both. So on the medical hospital, my day was very boring, very, very long, very boring. And if I haven't said it already, very boring. I would wake up I was weighed twice a week. So on a Monday and a Thursday, I think, I was weighed, yeah, it was a Thursday. I was weighed, so I'd be woken at about 6:30, made to go to the bathroom, and then I'd be weighed, and then I could go back to sleep. And I would sleep then usually until about 8:30, 9 o'clock, where I'd be brought my breakfast and my feed would be disconnected. So I'd be given all my meds, given my collagen and everything through my tube, and then I would usually have a wee nap because I was exhausted, like physically and mentally I was exhausted. My body was just so down. So I would usually have a wee nap after breakfast, and then after that I would go and get washed and dressed as I'd be disconnected from my feed. I'd get washed and dressed, go and lie in my bed then, chat away to my one-on-one, and then it'd be lunchtime. So lunchtime came and I would have usually my meal would arrive, and I would have like my goal set of how much I was going to eat every day. So that was gradually increased every day. And then after lunch, well, it depended on the day. After lunch, my dietitian would come and see me, my physio would come and see me, my doctors would come and see me, and they'd review my whole case. So most of them would come every day. And then 3 times a week I had my community mental health social worker would come to me just to talk about things and make sure I was mentally coping okay. And then I would have dinner at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then I would have been given another dose of collagen at that stage, and after that I would be given my ultra plan to drink, and if I didn't drink it, get put through my tube. And then it was about 6 o'clock at this stage. So after that I was still on one-on-one, so I chat away to my one-on-one, as I wasn't allowed any electronics until like my last week there. So I wasn't allowed phones, TVs, nothing, books, nothing. So it was a very long day. So I would talk an awful lot to my one-on-one. And then at about 7 or 8 o'clock, my mum and dad would come, which was a godsend, as it meant I could talk to actual people that I knew and hear old news from home. So about 9 o'clock then I would have, well, 8:30, 9 o'clock I would have my supper, which was usually a bread roll. And then at about 9:30 my mum and dad would leave, and about 10 o'clock I would be given all my meds and set up on my feet again for the night. And that was basically my day in the medical unit. As I started to improve and gain weight, I was given more freedom. So I was allowed things like, I was allowed my phone for an hour a day, and then it was for an hour twice a day. And I was allowed books and colouring books and all that. And I was allowed to go on short walks around the ward, and I was allowed to go down to the coffee shop once I was at a more stable weight. But yeah, it was a very long day, very boring for 4 months to be doing that all day, every day. So my time on the eating disorder program was very, very different, as the typical day was far more structured and you felt like you were actually achieving something. So on a typical day, so like you were weighed twice a week. So on a Tuesday and a Thursday you were weighed, which meant you had to get up a bit earlier and go up in your pajamas to the weighing room. But on a non-weighing day, you would have to be up and dressed for breakfast at 8:30. And breakfast was from 8:30 till 10 o'clock, 8:30 till 9 o'clock, sorry. And then we had a rest period for an hour after breakfast, where we would get our obs done, and then we would go into the lounge and chill for a while. And then all the day patients would arrive, so there was always a bit of chat going. And then 10:30 we had snack time, and we had another half an hour rest after snack time. And then we would sometimes have a group in the morning after snack. Not very often, but sometimes you would. And then you would have lunch at 1 o'clock till 1:30, 1:45, and then we had an hour rest after that again. And then we had another group after lunch, and after that we would have snack at 3:30. Then we would some days you would have another group after mid-afternoon snack. Very rarely. I think it was only a Thursday we had a group after snack time. I think so. It's been a while. But then we would have dinner or tea at 5 o'clock, which was from 5 till about 5:30. And then we would have rest period until 6:30. And after 6:30 you were free to do whatever you want. So it depended on what level you were on. So if you were on the highest level, you were allowed off the ward. Well, sorry, the lowest level. So like it was level 1, you were allowed off the ward whenever you wanted. You were allowed to go to the arts and crafts room, the jewellery making room, the pottery room, go to the garden, anything like that. Whereas if you're on level 3, you were ward bound, I think that's how it was. But anyways, for the first couple of weeks I was ward bound because I had a tendency to over-exercise and everything. So I was ward bound and not allowed off the ward. And then gradually I was given permission to go off the ward for an hour a day with someone else. So I wasn't allowed out on my own. So So I was allowed off the ward, so down to the coffee shop or down to the garden with a visitor or one of the nurses. And then gradually I was given more and more time, so I was then given an hour off the ward on my own, and then any time I had visitors I was allowed off the ward with them for as long as I wanted. And then, so that's kind of what you did from kind of 6:30 until 9 o'clock. And 9 o'clock then we would usually all be in our pyjamas and we'd all come up and have snack time together, and then have our obs done again, go and chill in the lounge for about an hour after snack. And then we were, well, half an hour, but you could stay up as late as you wanted. But then you would go to bed at about 10:30, 11 o'clock, really depended. At the weekends we used to stay up a lot later, but yeah, that's kind of what a typical day was like on the eating disorder unit. Next question is, did you still receive a lot of support as an outpatient? So basically when you're I don't know, does everyone, but most people, when you're discharged from inpatient, you automatically start on the day program, which is a less intense, less intense in some aspects, but group-wise and recovery-wise, I think it's more intense. So within a couple of days of me being discharged, I was back up in the hospital as a day patient, and I continued as a day patient for 6 months. So at the start I was there every day of the week as I needed the support. So I was there 5 days a week from 10 o'clock until about 4 o'clock. Some days I was there until 5 o'clock as we had late groups, but it was, for me, I found it really beneficial from the point of view that we had more groups. So we would have at least 2 groups a day, and they were proper intense groups. So they weren't like, because they believe when you're an outpatient that you're more mentally prepared to deal with recovery. So when you're inpatient, you're still too sick to be dealing with it properly. So you don't have self-esteem classes, you don't have body image classes, you don't have psychology skills. Whereas when you're outpatient, they're like, right, you're well enough now, so we'll give you the proper intense classes where you can learn more about your eating disorder and recovery. So I found the support as an outpatient really, really beneficial. In some ways as beneficial, if not more beneficial, than inpatient, as we had more groups and it was helping you kind of learn the skills you're going to need to beat your eating disorder. But I was asked this question I think about 7 times. What is mantra? So here is my mantra manual. Mantra is a treatment for anorexia nervosa. So it stands for, give me 2 seconds, stands for the Maudsley Model of Anorexia Nervosa Treatment for Adults, or MANTRA for short. It is a one-on-one therapy that is being used a lot now for anorexia patients. It is a very intense therapy, I will say that. It's devised of 20 sessions, so I had mine from June of last year until this year, as we were trying to space them out a bit more so that I would have longer with supports. So it is a really good therapy, honestly. It is an awful lot of hard work and very mind-boggling. Like, I have a folder about that thick of all my work from it, and I have a notebook that's just jammered with writing and scribbles and notes. But it is without a doubt one of the best tools I have been given on how to deal with my eating disorder, honestly. It helped me learn a lot about where my eating disorder came from, why I hold on to it, the positives that I get from my eating disorder, but also the negatives that I got from my eating disorder. So I would highly recommend it for anyone going through anorexia. I think it is so beneficial, and if it's done properly, which mine was, thankfully I had a really good advanced nurse practitioner. She's a doctor. I had her do my treatment with me and she was phenomenal, honestly. Like, she took no crap, but she was so good at getting to the point and helping me realize things without her spelling it out for me. I worked on it myself and I did a lot. It involves an awful lot of homework, but in the end it is so worth it to see how far you've come from the very start of the book, where like my ability to change was, I think, a 3. Yeah, my ability to change was 3, and now it's up at a 9. So that really says a lot about how the book works. As you move through it, you learn more and more about your eating disorder, and you learn skills and tools on how to deal with it properly instead of just listening to the voices and giving into it. Next question. What has been the best parts of recovery? So, I don't even know where to start on this question. There has been so many benefits to choosing recovery. Things such as being able to spend time with your family again, go out with your friends. I know in the current climate we're not exactly allowed to go out or anything, but it's simple things like being at home in your own bed. Like, I spent the guts of 6-7 months in a hospital bed, not appreciating being at home in my double bed with my duvet and my snuggie blanket and my fluffy pajamas. Simple things like that to major things like I'm hopefully going to Canada for the summer, which is something this time last year I couldn't have done as I was too unwell. So in that sense, recovery is so worth it. And things like I'm definitely going back to college in September, which I'm so excited about, because I can't become a nurse if I still have my eating disorder, which is something Mantra has helped me come to terms. Sorry about that, my alarm went off just to take one of my meds. But yeah, back to where I was. I can't become a nurse if I don't follow recovery, and since I was a toddler I have wanted to be a nurse, so it's the motivation to keep going is one of the best things, as I'm back to being me again. It's so lovely to hear your family go. It's so nice to have the old Mary back, which I didn't think I'd ever gone anywhere, but they say my personality, everything had disappeared for the last couple of years. So they're saying it's back now, and they're actually enjoying spending time with me instead of dreading every meal time and every snack time. I just go and do it now and get on with it, basically. So yeah, the best parts of recovery are all the fun things you get to do and living your best life again, I guess. How has living with chronic pain affected your eating disorder journey? Living with chronic pain has massively impacted my eating disorder, as they believe that one of the main contributors to me developing my eating disorder was having chronic pain. I couldn't cope with living in pain every day since I was 13. I have been in pain in my leg and my backs all the time, every day. So I didn't learn how to cope with that. I was always just given medications and expected to just get on with it. But it's very hard to just get on with it when you've constantly got pain in your leg and back. So I wanted to take control of something, and that ended up being my eating. So chronic pain has hugely affected my eating disorder, and I still find that days where I'm in an awful lot of pain or I'm in a bad flare, then my eating will be worse, because I just automatically go with my, as they call it, my maladaptive coping mechanism, which is to listen to ED behaviours. But I'm slowly working on how to overcome that and learn better ways of coping with my chronic. Sorry, all this talking has got me really thirsty. How does actually being in a mental health hospital differ from how the media portrays it? For example, Pretty Little Liars. Okay, so this is a really interesting question. I personally, before I went to my assessment in St. Pat's, I was terrified, because the only kind of insight I had to psychiatric hospitals was the likes of what they portray on Pretty Little Liars or on TV, which are big, empty, old, haunted buildings. which is honestly the furthest thing from what I experienced. The hospital I was in was a modern building with high-tech stuff everywhere. The rooms were gorgeous. The lounge we had was like the sitting room in anyone's house. It was gorgeous. And you had TVs, you had your phone, you had your books, you had your college work, you had everything you needed. So it really does differ from what they show. It is nothing like what they show on TV. On TVs they see everyone just being held down and shot with medication and all that. Yes, I understand there are some cases where that happens, but for most of us, that is not the experience we have. We are in a caring facility that is looking out for our best needs, and not in a place where like they torture you, which is what they try and portray in TV programs, which I am totally against. Especially in eating disorder units, they tend to only show on TV the really thin anorexics, whereas there's so much more than that in an eating disorder unit. Like there's people at healthy weights, there's people at heavier weights, people at low weights. It doesn't matter. We are all there because we all have eating disorders. We wouldn't be there unless we actually were sick. We all went through the assessment and we were deemed that we needed that bed. So what they show on TV is so inaccurate to what actually happens in a mental health facility. My very last question: would you consider yourself to be in recovery? I would 100% consider myself to be in recovery. That doesn't mean that there aren't days that I get up and I'm like, oh good God, do I have to have my breakfast? But I now have the tools to go, no Mary, you have to sit down, you have to have your breakfast, and you can't compensate for it afterwards, because you know that you have to follow your meal plan, because there's so much more to life than living with anorexia, honestly. So I'm going to say goodbye, and I will hopefully do another video like this sometime soon when I think of another topic to do. So yeah, see you.